Bethan Bovino, who's a Deputy Chief Economist at Standard & Poor's, joining us on the phone line. Bethan, to begin with, what are you making of this whole, this standoff essentially between the Republicans and the Democrats as far as the deficit reduction plan goes?
Well, I mean, I guess it goes to show that failure was an option in the end, and I was expecting a partial agreement. I was expecting about $600 billion in terms of small spending cuts and also some revenue achievements, but a near failure, I think, is going to certainly put a little more downward pressure on the likelihood of this recession, of another recession in the U.S. Right now, I'm still expecting the recovery to be in place. Of course, the numbers are coming in. The existing home sales and the GDP numbers also show that it's still a half speed, but still continuing recovery. But this risk that the government is adding is just putting more pressure on the economy.
Sure. In fact, Bethan, that was the next question. You have this huge standoff at the political level regarding the fiscal reduction plan. You've got third quarter GDP numbers which have come in much lower than expected at 2%. Are we essentially talking about the focus of global markets shifting away from Europe to the U.S. and that the U.S. could potentially be the big driver that pulls global markets down?
Well, I think with the inaction by the U.S. government, it certainly goes to show that we're certainly not walking in the right direction. I'm sure markets are going to be focused on what's happened in the U.S. We saw a huge drop, largely tied to the U.S. government inaction, and given that we're going into a year next year, going into elections, I don't see much change in that going on, and that's certainly going to put the risk of the U.S. recovery certainly on a high level.
Sure. And again, Bethan, on a related note, if we are talking about sequestration kicking in soon after the presidential elections are over, do you believe that is going to play very heavily on consumption in the United States?
Yes, I think there's two factors. Certainly the move right now, in terms of the move by Standard & Poor's to not lower the ratings, it is basically tied on the fact of the trigger effect, that the $1.2 trillion will go into automatic spending cuts. That's already being challenged by Congress. I don't know if that's going to be pushed through because the administration already said that they're going to veto that, but that's certainly one risk. Now, if the other factor is the basically allowing the stimulus that's already in place, the payroll tax cuts and the long-term benefits, allowing them to be to lapse into next year. That's another risk for the recovery. All these factors are going to keep people scared to spend. I am expecting holiday sales to pick up, probably because of just recession relief, but I think that the 2012 is going to be very risky.
Bethan Bovino, many thanks for coming in.